to episode 5 of the Local Lab podcast. We have a musical treat in store for you this week. Join us is the incredible talented musician, Jake Carter. Jake, welcome.
Woo, thank you so much for having me.
Welcome. Just before we dive into your podcast, mate, huge shout out to our official sponsors, Appear On Clothing. Discover their stylish collection at www.appearon-clothing.com and use the code LOCAL15 for an exclusive 15% off their range. Jake, welcome. Good to see you again.
Thank you very much.
Very long time.
Weird calling me Jake.
Yeah, I don't like calling you Jake. It's horrible. I know you as Jacob.
That's it. My man and my nan still call me Jacob.
Well, that's just for your social media reasons. I'll have to call you Jake. So, tell everyone what I know, what growing up was like for you.
Yeah, growing up was obviously I'm Scouser. Growing up, we were in
like
school
Dublin
together.
twang now.
Yeah, and then I'm home normally for like a couple of weeks and go back to Dublin. People are like, you're so Scouts, and I come over here and people are like, you don't. Why are you talking like that?
Well, the same happened to like Nathan, didn't it?
You
lived in Ireland, and
so you lose it,
yeah.
like, but it's always kind of there. But yeah, so obviously we went to school together. We were both in SFX, and music was always around for me. I have an older brother who's a singer as well, so it was always kind of, as cliche as it is, it was like it was in the blood, you know
all
what I mean?
All three of you were musical?
Yeah, my sister,
very good singer.
she actually sung and played concertina of all instruments, which is a very strange, traditional. We would have always went to like the Irish Centre, so every Monday we'd go down there and I used to play the fiddle. Nathan, my brother, played accordion, my sister played the concertina, so that's kind of where music started for us. And then when I got to school, got a little bit older, it was like, okay, the fiddle's not that cool. So started learning guitar and did drums and did everything. I was very lucky that my mum and dad kind of, whatever I wanted to try, they put me into it, do you know what I mean? So I was very fortunate that way, and then ended up playing the guitar then, and the rest is kind of history. Started gigging at the age of 15, 16 professionally. We did lots of gigs before that. But yeah, so started that when I was in school. When I was in sixth form, I got a little van, started gigging away, and yeah, just haven't stopped since.
Yeah,
still bluffing.
But you, like say, your heritage, your family is music. You know, obviously Nathan, very successful in his field of music. Did that like kind of inspire you to get into it? Was Nathan your inspiration?
Yeah, it would have been. Yeah, like even growing up, he's 8 years older than me. Yeah. So I would have always been on every holiday that we had in school. I'd have gone over to Ireland and would be there at kind of his gigs, watching him. And he was a huge support then when I did start gigging. He actually bought me my first PA, my first desk, and kind of showed me how everything kind of worked. You know what I mean? So I'd be rocking up to like pubs at the age of 16. You wouldn't be allowed to go in, only the fact that I was actually gigging there. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, it would have been a huge help growing up.
Yeah. So obviously you mentioned there briefly that school you played. Now me and Jacob were very good mates in school. Still are good mates. We played a concert. We played one concert together, and it was in year 8 or 9. I don't know what year it was. Do you remember the 2 songs we played? Doesn't matter if you don't.
Can I have a clue?
One's by the Eagles.
Was it Take It Easy?
No.
What?
Mr. Feeney taught us this. You done the lead, I done the rhythm.
Oh, I don't know.
It was Hotel California.
Oh, I do remember it now.
Yeah, and then the last one was, you lie. And the last one was...
it just us two, or was there someone else?
Just me and you.
Well, didn't we have a drummer at one stage, though?
Yeah, Tom McGrath.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he...
And we had, like, there was no kick drum, so we just used the bottom bin instead. Yeah, I remember that. What was the second song?
Please, Mr. Postman.
Oh, that was my favourite. That was my go-to tune, that.
Yeah, so we done that, just so you can remember me.
There we go.
Get too famous for me.
I know. You can do the next gig with me now.
Thanks, mate.
With 2 songs in the bag.
Yeah, Jesus. So obviously, you released your own... So if anyone was looking from the outside, they would think, Nathan's brother. Like, you're Nathan's brother. How do you deal with that? Because for me, if someone kept... Because a lot of people mention Nathan when you get interviewed.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that? Is it hard to deal with?
Do you know what? Especially in Ireland, like Nathan would be so well known.
Probably the biggest country singer in Ireland.
Yeah, before I even moved over, like it was... Everyone knew who Nathan was, and I was always kind of known as Nathan's brother. Do you know what I mean? And growing up, it was fine when I was younger, and still is now. Like, I owe a lot to Nathan. I wouldn't be where I am without him. Like, when I moved over to Ireland, I was 17, going on 18, and we moved into a house together. He moved out of his house, and we started renting somewhere together. And I met my manager at the time then, and he kind of put a band around me, and we started gigging, and then I got onto Dancing with the Stars in Ireland, which is like the Irish version of Strictly, basically.
How did you get on that, by the way?
I actually went on and won it in the end, but we won't talk about that.
No,
but yeah, like realistically, like I wouldn't have got on that show if it wasn't for Nathan. Do you know what I mean? I kind of was on that show as, I was like, I was a singer and I just launched my career over there, but I was known as Nathan's brother. Do you know what I mean? And that was kind of fine. And it propelled a lot of things, like for me in the music industry, gigs. I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing without that kind of platform. So it has its benefits and it's like,
so you only focus on the benefits.
Some sides then, like, you know, I'd be releasing music and people would instantly just think it's country music because they'd be like, oh, that's Nathan's brother, it must be country. So that's been the biggest kind of negative side to it. And yeah, I guess some people, you'd see them be like, oh, do you not get fed up just being known as like Nathan's brother? But I kind of see it as like a target as well, as in the fact, right, and I'll know if I keep going, eventually people will be like, oh, sure, he's Jake's brother. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
so, and as well, like, as cliche as it is, like, but he's my brother and like, I love him and always will. So it's kind of cool. I don't mind it.
Yeah. So, like, say you haven't went into the countryside of it. You've done pop.
Yeah, it's all very pop. So I would have, obviously, you mentioned before, one of our guitar teachers in school, Mr. Franey. Yeah. He was obsessed with the Beatles. Yeah, like
he was.
If I wasn't doing my grade stuff, I used to think he used to just didn't actually prepare for some lessons. You know what I mean? He'd just be like, right, what Beatles song will we do today? Like, so I think I kind of got a little bit obsessed with the Beatles then as well. Do you know what I mean? And I would like to think there's a bit of an influence in that when I'm songwriting. I do a lot of songwriting. Well,
you just led me perfectly to a song you've just released, which is Down the Road to Me.
Yeah.
What some people won't know is the cover of that song. You used Primrose Road.
Yeah.
That's your.
That
original.
Was my
that
my
was where we
house.
That's where we used to rehearse.
That's it. I always wanted to kind of. I've actually written another song as well to do with Primrose Road, and it was something I always wanted to do. And recently, I recorded a few different covers. I did a cover of a McFly song, and I've actually not released yet, but we've done a cover of You'll Never Walk Alone, which I'm hopefully release soon, because it's such an iconic song, not even just for Liverpool fans, but just in general. But it's like a collection of songs that I want to eventually put onto this little album, which is like called the Primrose Road Sessions. So it's kind of like all the songs that meant something to me growing up. And I'm going to put them on that. And then I wrote this other song, which is called Down the Road to Me. And I never actually intended to release it as like a single or anything. It was just a song I wrote in lockdown. I was just sitting there in my apartment in Dublin one day and just kind of came to me. And it's about living down the road from the Beatles, you know, like where we went to school, like at the bottom of Beaconsfield, there's like strawberry fields and John Lennon's Auntie Mimi's house is literally down the road, as like the song says. So you grow up and even the likes of Penny Lane and stuff like that, and you notice when you go away from Liverpool, like how much of an impact the Beatles have had around the world. Like people pay fortunes to fly and come and just see Penny Lane, like which we pass every day.
We take it for granted, don't
we? Yeah,
we?
exactly. You don't think anything of it. So that was obviously a huge inspiration to me, and I think it's only when I've got older I've kind of realised how much that has influenced my own musical choices and stuff. So you can kind of see in different songs that I would have written, I like to think like there's a bit of the Beatles in there. I'd be a huge fan of loads of different pop bands, you know what I mean? The likes of Maroon 5 and Ollie Meyers, Shawn Mendes, all that type of stuff. I love all that. So I try and take a little bit of everything and just make it my own. Yeah.
I think that's the best song you've ever written.
I
love that song because it's more that I think I can connect with it personally because I know what you mean.
Yeah, it's like there's not much to it as well. Like we didn't actually do a full band version of it. It was literally just like I said, we never actually intended to release it as a single. It was just kind of something we put down in the studio, and then we said, you know what, I'm actually just going to put that out there. And even if it doesn't do that well, it was not like there was no big PR plan around it. There was no big money put into promoting or anything. It was just, I'm just going to release it because I want to release it. You know what I mean?
So songwriting, the process, any specific themes or experiences that often inspire music?
Do you know, I always get asked that question as well, and it's weird. Like, it's a strange thing because I remember growing up. Like, I remember when we were young, and I'd sit down and try and write a song, and it'd be like, you can't do it. Like, I remember the first song I wrote was awful. Like, it was terrible, and it is something that you just. I don't know. It just eventually it just clicks. Like even when I started gigging professionally and I first moved over to Ireland, I still wasn't like songwriting by myself. I'd do a lot of co-writing sessions. So there was actually a girl called Triona who's a singer over in Ireland. She lives in America now actually, but I would have done all my first tracks that I released. I think there was about 5 of them on an EP. They were called like Having a Party, Falling for You. Forgetting the names of my own songs now, but them 5 tracks were all written with her, and that was kind of like my little comfort blanket, in the sense of I didn't think I was good enough just to do it by myself, so I was like doing it with her, and then it's just something over the years that you just find you get better at, and I think as you mature with age as well, you get used to writing and finding kind of your rhythm, how you do it.
You find your lane, don't you?
Exactly, yeah. But my process is very much like, it could be random, like it could be walking through Costco or something, just like a lyric will come to me and I just write it down in my phone and it's there then. And then some days I go through phases, like, so I actually haven't done any songwriting the last 4 months because I just haven't felt like it, you know what I mean? You've got to be in that mind frame. So then I could go to like a couple of months time and I could spend a full month of just doing loads of writing sessions. So it's weird, it just comes and goes, and there's no real way of explaining how it happens. But yeah, I just write loads of stuff. My notes page and my voice notes in my phone is just full on garbage. If anyone looked at it, they'd be like, what is this? But to me it makes a little bit of sense.
Yeah. So like say you wrote many songs. What was the first song you wrote? And then and because it's quite songwriting's quite emotional. It's a way of letting your emotions out. It's a way of sending a message out if you wanted to send a message out.
Yeah.
So the first one, what was the first song you wrote, and like what really you kind of wrote might actually have a bit of a connection to that?
It's probably a song I released a couple of years ago now called Loving in Darkness, which is like a ballad that I released, and it was, without going into it in too much depth, it was to do with relationships at the time, and I was going through a lot of different stuff in a relationship, and it was very kind of raw. It's probably the best word. I actually co-wrote it with a good friend of mine called Mark Kaplis. And I would have done a lot of sessions with Mark as well. And it was one of them sessions that was never, we didn't actually go in intending to write a ballad. I think we were like trying to write like an upbeat summer song or something. He was just like kind of started asking me what's going on in life at the minute, blah, 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 and all that. And the song just came out then. So I think in a weird sense, that's sometimes the best songs come from that, when you're not expecting to write them. And it just, it's just what you're actually naturally feeling, and the emotion then gets put into the song. Yeah.
So like say a lot of collaboration. It's a big collaboration behind the scenes. There's so much collaboration to do with music, isn't there?
Yeah, loads.
So it's for someone who's interested in music, how important is that collaboration when you're trying to do it full time? You know what I mean?
I think the main thing as well that people don't see is like the networking side of it. Yeah. Like the music industry is one of the hardest industries in the world, hands down. Like, do you know what I mean? Like,
why?
It's just tough. Like, and even I consider myself very lucky in the sense that when I started out, I had other things that I could do to earn money. Like I in 2018, I was asked to do a pantomime and play Aladdin, and I'd never acted before. This was when I'd just moved over, just before I did Dance with the Stars in Ireland, and that was like, for me at the time, I think it was like I got something stupid like 10 grand to do this, and it was like 2 months work. It was a lot of work, but to me, I was like 18, I was like, this is amazing. Do you know what I mean? I'm getting paid all this money and I'm going to put it all back into music, and that's what happens. And that, I think that's one of the tough sides of it then as well that people don't see, is like everything that you do in the music industry costs you money. Like every time you're renting a studio, every time you're hiring a musician to record on a track, if you're getting a producer, if you're getting artwork done, if you're marketing, social media, advertise, it all just costs money. Like, I can safely say I've probably lost more money in the music industry than I would have gained, and I'm a professional musician. Do you know what I mean? Well, professional. I don't know what you call that. But like, you know, if I didn't have the other things that I do, like acting, we started the music school. We've got a stage school in Dublin. If it wasn't for them, like I'd probably still just be having to like busk or something. Yeah.
It's crazy,
Yeah,
isn't
it's
it? Like,
mad.
is it true? Because there's always like, it's not a wives' tale, but is it true that musicians only make money playing live? You don't make much money off your records.
Yeah, well, yeah, definitely, yeah. So like Spotify, like I think you need to get something like 1 million streams to get $1,000 or something.
Wow.
It's mad. Like I think someone actually broke it down for me once. I think one Spotify stream is worth something like 0.00001 pence to an artist.
See, people just don't realise that,
Yeah,
do they?
yeah, it's mad. Yeah.
They think if your name's on there and you've got like 40,000 hits, you think, oh, he's
And then if
killing it.
you like, obviously I'm all independent, but if you're in a record deal, then you don't see that money. They've got to make all their money back before you even see a penny. Do you know what I mean? And then people as well, like the music industry is very. I think growing up, I was always like in the thing of, oh, I need to get a record deal, need to do this, need to do that, and it's just not worth it sometimes for what you get out of it. Like I've seen firsthand different artists that I would know that have signed up to different record labels, got this, got that, and then you know they don't earn anything out of it. Like they might get a great album out of it, and they might do well for a little while, but then most of the time, unless you now, obviously, there's certain instances where it does work. That everyone has their own different way, but yeah, I think there's a lot of more bad stories than good stories. But yeah, it's just like at the end of the day, it's a business. You know what I mean? It's a tough business, the music business. So
Yeah.
you just got to keep going. And I think if you're not in it for the right reasons, it's soon you soon know, and you soon be shown why you're there. Like I just mean, if people think, oh, I'm just going to become a musician one day because I'm going to make a load of money, it just doesn't really happen like that.
I think you see it in Liverpool a lot as well. You know, you see up and coming musicians in Liverpool who are going on BBC Merseyside. You know, they're playing Lymph in it.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, and you think, oh, these could be really good, and then they just go nowhere, and then
Yeah,
they end
it's
up
tough.
playing in a pub, and you go, and you think you see it more than anywhere in the city because of how musical.
Well, that's it. And you know,
background it is.
the problem is not the problem, but there's just that much good music out there, and not everyone is going to be a superstar.
No.
So it's strange how it works, and I think I'm a big believer in just being in the right place at the right time, and if you keep going, eventually, hopefully something will click. But like I say, it's not an easy industry to be in at all.
Here's a mad one for you. If you didn't get, you know, like the breakthrough that you got, would you went on something like Britain's Got Talent or somewhere to try and break through? And what's your opinion on stuff like that?
I've been asked to do stuff before. Like I've been asked to do X Factor and I like in different shows like that. And I never really wanted to do them. But I think if I didn't have the platforms that I did, I have had in my career and the kind of launches that I've had in Ireland, I probably would have maybe eventually done something like that. Yeah.
Did you go? So obviously, you say you're based in Ireland. Was there a bigger market in Ireland, or was it
like purely? I think at the time my manager was Irish.
Yeah.
I wanted to move over there because I was going to live with Nathan. I was 18 and I was like, yeah, I'm going to move in with my brother and we're going to just party every weekend. And I did that for a year and then I was like, right, let's grow up. Nathan still hasn't grown up. He's still partying.
I think you're more mature than Nathan.
Yeah, I grew up at a young age. I was 13 going on 25, I think. But yeah, so I think at the time, my manager was Irish. I just moved over. The band that we'd got together were great lads at the time. Now I've actually got a different band now. It's just how it works sometimes, you know what I mean? But the lads that I had at the start were a really good band, and we all clicked really well. And we just gigged flat out. We did every gig that we could do for that first couple of years, and then I did Dance with the Stars and got a massive launch off that. It was amazing. We did a tour then straight after that. And it just all kind of clicked in Ireland. Now, my goal now over kind of the next few years is to try and bring things back to the UK and start gigging over here, where I used to gig in like pubs and stuff, because I actually haven't done a gig with the band in Liverpool yet. It's all just been over in Ireland. Then obviously COVID happened the last couple of years and that kind of sunk everything for everyone for a couple of years. So, but my goal now is to kind of bring stuff back over here and hopefully get further afield and maybe into Europe and try gigging over there.
Yeah, I think you done COVID well though. No, looking from the outside, because you were with Nathan through COVID.
Yeah.
and you've done a lot of covers.
Yeah.
And they were received really well.
Yeah.
So I think COVID was a good thing as well.
Yeah, I think then TikTok appeared, and I hated TikTok with a vengeance. I was like, oh, I don't want to sign up. I don't want an account. But I think I just had to give in eventually. And it's mad how TikTok works. Like, you know, you could put a video up, you could have no followers, and you could get 10 million views if it's liked. You know what I mean? The algorithm works for you. It's just a mad platform. But then I love doing covers. I love when I used to sing in the pubs and clubs and wherever it'd take me, restaurants and old people's homes, and used to love just singing covers, and I still do. So I do try and do weekly covers on TikTok and stuff, and Instagram and YouTube and OnlyFans and wherever. No, not yet. We're not at that stage yet.
No.
But yeah, so yeah, it's as well during COVID. It was just to keep me busy, just to do something.
Yeah. So what was the most memorable or exciting performance that you've ever had so far?
We did a gig, a headline show in Vicar Street, which is a venue in Dublin, real iconic venue. It was on the tour just after Dance with the Stars, and it was the best gig that I've done. Because I went to Vicar Street loads of times before, going to see other artists, and was always in the crowd, and that was for me, it was a big pinch me moment of, wow, I've actually achieved this, and it was an amazing gig. So that was definitely one of the most memorable that I've done to date.
What was your first gig?
First gig in Ireland or first gig over here? First gig in Ireland was a festival in Rosscray, County Tipperary. There's a band called The Stunning. I don't know if you've ever heard of The Stunning. They're an Irish band. They were headlining, and we did the gig to about 50 people. I think we were on earlier in the day, but I had a ball. It was a great gig, yeah.
Well, must have been a bit of a hit in the face moment, I can imagine. You know, from because obviously you must look back to where you've started from, which is in your house. Yeah. And then obviously the Irish Centre and that, to where you are now. It must be a bit of when you take a step. Do you ever take a step back and look and go, well, I've actually done all right here? Take a bit of appreciation. Yeah,
definitely. And I think sometimes as well, I've done a lot of television in Ireland, and it's something that I never thought I would get into. Used to sit at home, watch TV constantly, do you know what I mean? And now it's it's a real pinch me moment when I'm on these different shows. One of them as well, I did Hell Week, which is basically the Irish SAS Who Dares Wins. And that was last year, and that was an amazing experience to do that. But I remember looking at that back thinking this is mad that I'm on TV and getting shouted at by a load of Irish Rangers, and it was just a crazy moment, yeah. But I think more so that kind of stuff, and the whole Dance with the Stars thing, when I won that, I just couldn't believe that. And even now, when people come up to some people come up to you in the street and they're like, oh, you're the dancer, and I'm like, well, I'm actually a singer, but yeah, I did that dancing show. So yeah, there's definitely been a lot of moments over the last few years that I'm that's crazy.
Didn't Paul Cassidy run up?
He did, yeah.
I remember that. I remember watching.
And he actually, so in the final, so you do 12, there was 12 weeks of shows before that, and there was 2 other girl finalists that were with me. There was 3 finalists, and I didn't, winning was not even a thought in my head, because I was these other 2, one of them was a comedian called Deirdre O'Kane. She's huge in Ireland, has a huge following. And the other girl was a sports woman called Anna Geary, and she's massive as well. And this was in 2018, and I was literally over there for less than a year. And I was like, I've reached the final. This is crazy. I'm just going to go out and have a party. My family were all over. Paul was over. My nan was there. And everyone was kind of there. And at the very end, the head of the production came onto the floor in the break and was just right, guys, just need to let you all know, whoever wins, that's brilliant, but everyone needs to stay in their seats. We've no insurance for anyone else to be coming onto the dance floor. So when the winner is announced, we'll have the celebrations. You can see them after, but any family and friends, just stay where you're sitting. So everyone was like, yeah, this just went over my head, because I was like, yeah, I'm not going to win. Do you know what I mean? Next thing, when they announced Paul Cassidy so Paul's one of my mates who are growing up, before they'd even finished saying that we'd won, he ran on and just like jumped at me. So there's me and Karen just announced that we'd won. And I think the first picture that they took, we got sent a load of pictures. One of them is like Paul in this running pose halfway across the dance floor, and then everyone else came on. So yeah, they didn't listen. Yeah, they all ran on.
I remember watching it going, no way. I know this lad.
It's mad. I remember as well, one of my mum's mates, she put money on me to win as well, and she earned like, I don't know, I think she made like 500 or 600 quid or something. I was like, why didn't I put money on myself? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, done for fraud.
Yeah,
then.
true. That wouldn't be allowed. Don't do that.
So, advice for someone starting out in the music career. Also, we touched on this a little bit. If you had one golden rule to follow, what would it be?
Don't do it. No, I'm only joking. Believe in yourself is a lot of it. Do you know what I mean? Like, the music industry is full of opinions, and not everyone is going to like you. And you get a lot more knockbacks than you get like people going for you. Do you know what I mean? Like, even starting out, I remember sending songs into like hundreds of different radio stations and not even getting a reply sometimes. And then I think not getting a reply sometimes is even worse than someone writing back saying it's not really for us. Do you know what I mean? You'd nearly rather than be honest, but you have to be thick-skinned in the music industry. You have to be. There's like online, there's so many haters. Like, it's like I love haters because I just get loads of them. I just love replying to them and
what did he say to you?
Winding them up.
What did he say?
I'd get loads of stuff just saying that you're shite and stuff. Do you know what I mean? It's part and parcel of it. But I love that. But I think if I wasn't so thick-skinned, it could grate on you. Like, you could take it very tough. So you have to be resilient. And the one bit of advice that I would go with is just believe in yourself. Believe in yourself. If you think you can do it, you'll be able to do it.
Yeah. So besides music, obviously you touched on this again a bit. Other hobbies or passions that you're following?
Other hobbies.
Are you still dancing?
Yeah, well, occasionally. We've actually just ran a dance retreat, myself and Karen, my partner, in Marbella. So that was a thing, another little business that we decided to start. But I was never into like teaching, and I never thought I had patience for kids. I was always like, no, couldn't do it, never gonna do it. And then COVID happened, and Karen has a dance studio in Dublin, which we kind of renovated, and downstairs we did that up and put another studio into it. So there's now like 3 different studio rooms. And keep knocking that. I decided then in lockdown that I was going to start a music school. So I started up a music school, and I started teaching one girl who was actually, she danced, Karen taught her for years. She's called Ava. Really lovely kid. And I started teaching her, and I was like, you know what, this isn't actually as bad as I thought it was. And kind of found a new little love for doing that. So I built this little music school outfit now, and we've 3 different teachers, and we've about 40 kids now learning mixtures of piano, singing and guitar. So that's another little kind of passion project that I have on the side. And then myself and Karen started a stage school as well, which is a mixture of drama, singing and dancing. So I'm always, if I'm not gigging or I'm not in the studio, like as in the songwriting studio or recording studio, I'm normally in the dance studio with Karen. I don't dance that much anymore, but I'm like the biggest kid in Karen's dance school. Do you know what I mean? I'm the one that's messing and winding everyone up.
I'm gonna ask a question for me, Mario, because my mum loves Strictly. Like, she's strictly mad. What's the hardest dance to do?
The hardest dance is a rumba. When you get a rumba on the show, it's like a slow, like passionate dance, but it's just, it's awful, especially for a male. Because, like, I think if you're the female celeb on the show, the dancing like a rumba, no, you know what, I take it back. It's just as hard for females. Like, but I think sometimes, like, in a rumba, like, the man has to be very, like, strong and like own the dance and kind of lead the woman around, which is it's just hard. It's just awful. I got a rumba in the semi-final, and I was like, this is terrible.
So how did he decide what dance you get? Do they tell you?
You just get given them. Yeah, you don't get a choice. And the same with the songs as well. I remember some weeks being like, but that song's rubbish, and they're like, shut up, that's what you're getting, and you don't have a choice. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you complain, then it's not good for you. So
no, that's
it's mad. Actually, it's a completely different. Seeing behind the scenes, like I watched Strictly growing up, and I was never like big into like Latin and ballroom dancing or anything, but I would have watched it. And then when I was on the show on the other side of the camera, it's just mad the amount of work that goes into them shows. And like we'd be in the dance studio for like 12 hours some days and just constant. You just become in this little bubble. I remember at the time when I was on the show, we actually cancelled gigs and like rescheduled them because I was like, I don't have time to do anything else. I just need to dance.
Must be tiring.
Oh, it was like you were wrecked, yeah.
Yeah.
But you just become so consumed by it that nothing else matters, and you're just focusing on like our days that we danced were Sunday, so it was like you're just focusing on getting Sunday and getting through to the next week, and you just become so obsessed. I remember at the time as well, I lived with one of the other fellas that was on the show. He was his name's Rob Heffernan. He was an Olympic race walker, and I lived with him in an apartment in Dublin. And I thought it was great. He was 40. We celebrated his 40th birthday, but he was just like a big kid. So it was like being back in school and being on a constant like trip away with a mate for like 3 months. And it was great. I still keep in touch with him now. So it was it was a mad experience.
So what's next for Jake Carter? What can we all look for? What are we all looking for?
The next plans for me, I've just finished an EP. So 5 tracks that I'm looking to release now. We're kind of putting a plan in motion as we speak to get that out there and then just get back gigging. I'm looking forward to next year. We're going to be getting back on the road, back touring, and my plan is to come over here and do some gigs as well. Get back to Liverpool, get back to home.
Happy days. So the last question is always the tradition now.
Okay.
A quote that you live by or has a personal meaning to you?
A quote that I live by.
Or for you, it could be a song lyric which has got meaning to you.
Do you know what? I have like loads of quotes that I say, and then when I'm put on the spot, I'm trying to think of them. One of the funniest ones that I was always told, because I love talking, and I'm very quick to like reply to some people sometimes. And it was always one thing that always stuck to me. I can't remember who said it to me years ago. It was just like open your mouth and yawn. So like before you speak, just yawn. And it was always something that like stuck with me, because I would say stuff sometimes or something happened, you'd be like really replying really fast without thinking what you're saying. Do you know what I mean? So that's one thing that I always try and remember.
Happy days. Jake, thanks very much for coming on.
Thanks so much. I talked rubbish for the last hour, but hopefully some of it made sense.
Welcome to a podcast, especially a Liverpool podcast. Socials, what do we follow if we want to follow?
It's all Jake Carter Music. Yeah, and we've a website which is jakecarterofficial.com.
Like I said, thank you very much for coming on.
Thanks so much for having me.
You're very welcome. Thank you for joining us on another episode of the Local Lab Podcast. Don't forget to follow us on all the apps, TikTok, YouTube, under all one handle at the Local Lab Podcast. Until next time, remember that greatness can be found right in our community. Stay inspired, stay curious, and stay tuned to the Local Lab Podcast.